U.S. President Donald Trump announced that the U.S. will resume sending primarily defensive weapons to Ukraine, reversing a recent decision to pause deliveries. The move comes as Ukraine faced a record air assault last night with 741 drones and missiles launched from Russian territory. Another proof of how desperately Kyiv needs air defense. Joining me to discuss the actual situation of the U.S. arms supplies to Ukraine and the current situation of Ukraine is MacKay, CEO, Grable Rescue Group. Good evening, sir, and thank you for joining us here on TVP World.
Thank you for having me.
So the U.S. has resumed arms deliveries to Ukraine after a significant delay. Let's have a listen to Donald Trump's rationale behind this decision.
We get a lot of bullshit thrown at us by Putin, for you want to know the truth. He's very nice all the time, but it turns out to be meaningless. We want to put defensive weapons because Putin is not treating human beings right. He's killing too many people. So we're sending some defensive weapons to Ukraine, and I've approved that. I'm looking at it, I'm looking. The Senate is passing and passed a very, very tough sanctions. But yeah, I'm looking at it.
So supplies have been resumed, but Ukrainian officials, including President Zelensky, describe the current flow as minuscule. Why are the volumes still so limited, and what's constraining the flow? Is it logistic, politics, or stockpiles?
I think it's politics. I think it's a failure to recognize the threat. For example, the number of drones and missiles launched at Ukraine last month was over 5,000, which is 10 times more than it was a year ago. Over 500 missiles and drones launched at Ukraine by Russia in June of 2024. So there's a lack of a connection between the need. For example, in Trump's statement right there, you notice that it was personal. It was about his feelings about Putin, but it was not a reflection of what the weapons are for, which is to defend Ukrainian towns and cities. So I think the holdup, the insufficiency is purely political. It comes from a lack of political will. It is not logistics. It is not supply. It is simply an inexplicable reluctance of the U.S. and other Western allies to do what is necessary.
Exactly. Plus, the words don't match actions. The Guardian writes about just 10 Patriot missiles promised by Washington to Kyiv. So obviously it's not enough, just as you said yourself, especially with the amount of missiles fired and drone attacks. So what's the scale of needs right now in Ukraine?
The scale of need is extraordinary. And, for example, emphasizing Patriot missiles shows that, in a way, the Western allies haven't been keeping up with what's going on. A Patriot missile costs about $1 million, and it might be used to shoot down a drone that costs $20,000 to manufacture and launch. And you can see that the logic here does not apply, the simple economics of warfare. The last night, for example, was the largest attack in a single day. Over 700 missiles, drones were launched at Ukraine. So there's a complete failure to recognize what's actually going on and what is needed.
All right, so air defense systems are key to the Ukrainian security at the moment. But in your mind, who can provide them for Kyiv if it's not Washington? Will it be Mark Rutte, Keir Starmer, or Emmanuel Macron? Where should Volodymyr Zelensky look for them?
It can primarily be Ukrainians themselves. Their defense production capability is enormous. It's just underfunded. For example, there's what's called the Danish model, Denmark leading the way on this, to directly fund Ukrainian defense manufacturers to produce air defense weapons and drones of all kinds primarily, which are the major defense. So the real answer is Ukraine themselves. They're the only ones who are fighting the invaders, And they're the only ones who really know what is needed. So just fund the existing Ukrainian defense capability, and that can do most of what is needed.
The Coalition of the Willing is meeting in Rome. Main topics to be discussed tomorrow. Do you believe that the Coalition of the Willing is really able to step up?
No, I don't. I think there's a failure to recognize the scope of the problem, a failure to recognize that Europe itself is under attack, and that this has been the case for almost 11 and a half years since the invasion started. And the piecemeal support of the armed forces of Ukraine, leaving them as the sole fighting defenders of the West against Russian invasion attacks, when, by the way, North Korea is participating in the invasion as well. I don't have any hope for this meeting to do what is needed.
So coming back to the supplies by Washington, looking ahead, how do you assess the impact of this drawn-out minimal resupply on troop morale and battlefield momentum? And also, you mentioned Korea. What messages might it be sending to adversary watching the U.S. resolve?
Well, I think Ukrainian forces are very determined and have very high morale. And their attitude is that they will defend their country no matter what. And they've gotten used to the unreliability of the United States as an ally or partner. And so I think this will have no effect. I think the piecemeal supply of weapons will have more of an effect on Russia by encouraging them to extend the length of their invasion, to expand it as much as they're capable, and to look at this as a de facto support for the offensive which they're mounting this summer.
Thank you so much for your insights and for your comments. Michael MacKay, CEO Grebo Rescue Group, has joined us from Ottawa, Canada. Have a great day, sir, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching World News Tonight. And please stay tuned to TVP World for more commentaries and other interesting features.